Captain Elena Martinez squinted at the holographic display as the unidentified craft drifted into sensor range. It was unlike any vessel she had encountered in her 15 years with Earth's defense fleet. Organic curves instead of angular human engineering, its hull shimmering with an iridescent coating that seemed almost alive. "Radiation signatures?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the display. Lieutenant Dawson shook his head. "Nothing dangerous. But there's something odd, Captain. The hull is absorbing our scanned frequencies rather than reflecting them. Never seen anything like it." The damaged spacecraft limped past the Jupiter defense ring, its propulsion system flickering erratically. Deep scorch marks marred its port side, consistent with energy weapon impacts. Martinez felt a chill. Humanity had yet to develop such weapons. "They're broadcasting," Communications Officer Chen announced. Universal mathematical sequence followed by something our translators can't process yet. Definitely first contact protocol. Martinez straightened her uniform. 15 years of training for this moment. Patch me through and keep recording for the language processing team. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a dimly lit chamber. Several delicate figures huddled together, humanoid, but with elongated limbs and translucent blue skin that pulsed with internal light patterns. Their large, expressive eyes reflected the light of their control panels, pupils dilating as they regarded the humans. "This is Captain Elena Martinez of the Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome you to our solar system and offer assistance." She nodded to Chen, who transmitted their own mathematical response sequence. The aliens conferred among themselves, their skin flashing in complex patterns. Finally, one stepped forward. Its skin was darker, marked with what appeared to be age patterns or perhaps rank insignia. "Gratitude, offer, sanctuary." The translation came through broken but understandable. "We are Vashni. We seek refuge." Pursued. Martinez kept her expression neutral despite her surprise. "You're requesting asylum. From whom?" The translator struggled with the alien's response. "From all. Rejected by 17 civilizations, deemed without value." Over the next hour, as the translation algorithms improved, the Vashni leader, who identified as Kural, explained their situation. Their species possessed no remarkable abilities by galactic standards. No psychic potential, no superior strength, no technological brilliance. In a cosmic community that valued such traits, they had been systematically turned away from every potential homeworld. "We intercepted your transmissions," Kural explained, the translator now functioning more smoothly. "Your literature, your history. Humans value compassion alongside strength. You still remember vulnerability." Martinez studied the alien's stance, slightly hunched, eyes downcast. Body language that transcended species barriers. "Shame. Fear. Why Earth?" she asked directly. "There must be uninhabited worlds." Kural's skin dimmed slightly. "The galaxy is claimed, Captain. Every habitable world belongs to someone. We need protection as much as shelter." "From what?" "From those who see us as resources." The word came through with disturbing clarity. As the Vashni vessel was escorted to Earth orbit, Martinez filed her preliminary report to UN headquarters. The Security Council would have questions, many she couldn't yet answer. As she transmitted the data, a notification appeared on her private screen. Long-range sensors had detected energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Large vessels, changing course. Martinez glanced at the Vashni ship visible through the viewport. These fragile beings had crossed half the galaxy seeking Earth's protection. What exactly had followed them here? And what would humanity's first introduction to the galactic community cost? She opened a channel to General Command. "Sir, I believe we need to prepare for additional visitors. And I don't think they're coming to welcome us to the neighborhood." The United Nations Extraterrestrial Affairs Committee convened an emergency session as images of the Vashni refugees filled the displays around the chamber. Ambassadors murmured among themselves, some fascinated, others visibly unsettled by humanity's first confirmed alien visitors. They've been settled temporarily at the Montana compound, General William Harrison explained, his weathered face impassive as he addressed the assembly. Minimal contact protocol is in effect, but initial medical screening shows no biological hazards. Dr. Sophia Chen stepped forward, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear as she activated her presentation. At 34, she was young for her position as head xenobiologist, but her reputation was unmatched. The Vashni physiology is remarkable, she began, displaying cellular imagery. Their entire biological system seems designed to process and neutralize compounds that would be toxic to most life forms. We've never seen anything like it. Ambassador Johansson from Sweden frowned. Yet 17 advanced civilizations rejected them as worthless. That seems improbable. Before Chen could respond, the chamber's emergency alert system activated. The Secretary General's aide rushed in, face pale. We're receiving a transmission. Not from the Vashni vessel, from beyond Neptune's orbit. The main screen flickered, and the room fell silent. The being that appeared was encased in what resembled a floating mechanized suit, its actual form obscured behind crystalline panels. When it spoke, the voice resonated with harmonic undertones that made several humans wince. I am Envoy Xorlath of the Galactic Concord. Your harboring of Vashni refugees marks humanity as a pause, problematically sentimental. Captain Martinez, attending via secure link from the defense platform, watched the diplomats' reactions. Their carefully constructed protocols for first contact were crumbling in real time. The alien continued. The Vashni are a designated resource species under Concord regulation. Their return is expected. The translation matrix struggled with the complex harmonics, but the threat underlying the words was unmistakable. Resource species, the Secretary General asked carefully. The envoy's suit emitted pulses of light. Their biological function served necessary purification roles on development worlds. Their removal constitutes theft of Concord property. Martinez felt her hands tighten into fists. Property. Not refugees. Slaves. After the transmission ended, the committee erupted into panicked debate. Harrison advocated immediate compliance to avoid potential conflict. Others demanded more information before surrendering the Vashni to uncertain fates. At the Montana compound, Dr. Chen worked late into the night, analyzing soil samples from around the Vashni shelters. Something extraordinary was happening. Contaminated groundwater was showing drastically reduced toxin levels after just 3 days of Vashni presence. Her assistant looked up from his microscope. Dr. Chen, you need to see this. The plants growing near their living quarters, they're exhibiting accelerated growth and unprecedented resistance to the heavy metals in the soil. Chen studied the readings, then glanced through the observation window where several Vashni gathered in the evening light. Their skin pulsed with soft patterns as they communicated among themselves. They're not just filtering toxins, she whispered. They're transforming their environment. On Europa's listening post, Lieutenant Commander Jackson tracked the approaching vessels with growing concern. Sir, we've identified at least 7 distinct design signatures. Whatever this galactic concord is, it's not a single species. He pointed to the long-range scans. And based on their energy signatures, we're significantly outmatched. Back in New York, the committee reached its decision as dawn broke. Captain Martinez received her new orders with a grim expression. Learn everything possible from the Vashni before the Concord arrived. Humanity needed leverage, and they needed it quickly. Time estimate until first contact. She asked her navigation officer. At current approach vectors, 4 days, Captain. Martinez opened a secure channel to the Montana compound. Dr. Chen, I'm coming to you. We need to know what the Vashni are really running from, and why they're valuable enough to chase across the galaxy. 3 months after their arrival, the Vashni had settled into a cautious routine at the Montana compound. The refugees learned English with remarkable speed, their translucent fingers tracing letters in the air as they practiced. Captain Martins noticed they showed particular fascination with Earth's art and music, their skin pulsing with vibrant patterns whenever the staff shared cultural materials. They memorize melodies instantly, Dr. Chen explained as they observed a group of Vashni listening to classical music. Their auditory perception appears far superior to ours. Martinez frowned. Another ability the Galactic Conquerors somehow deemed worthless. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. 50 miles north, a chemical plant explosion had released a toxic cloud threatening the small town of Riverview. Evacuation orders were already issued, but the wind direction gave residents less than 30 minutes to clear the area. Before anyone could react, the Vashni were moving, not away from the disaster, but toward it. 6 of them broke through the compound's perimeter before security could respond, commandeering a transport vehicle. "What the hell are they doing?" General Harrison demanded over the emergency channel as Martinez and Chen pursued in a military transport. They arrived to find chaos at the evacuation perimeter. The toxic cloud hung ominously over the town, its greenish hue visible even in the afternoon light. But at the edge of the chemical fog stood the Vashni, their delicate bodies positioned in a semicircle. "Get back!" Martinez shouted, but it was too late. The Vashni raised their arms and stepped forward into the cloud. Their skin immediately darkened to a deep indigo as they began to absorb the airborne toxins. Painful blisters formed wherever the chemicals made contact, but they continued forward, their bodies literally filtering the air. "They're killing themselves," Chen whispered, horror and fascination mingling in her voice. Martinez grabbed environmental gear from their vehicle and rushed toward the aliens, but by the time she reached them, the toxic cloud had dissipated significantly. The Vashni collapsed, their skin mottled with dark patches and chemical burns. "Why?" Martinez asked as medical teams worked furiously to stabilize the aliens. "Why risk yourselves for us?" The eldest Vashni, Kirol, looked up with pained eyes. "To prove our worth." Back at the compound, the recovered Vashni were treated as heroes by the human staff, but Martinez noticed their behavior had changed. They seemed more guarded, exchanging those rapid skin-like communications whenever humans approached. At the UN Security Council meeting, satellite imagery revealed what they all feared. The massive armadas gathering beyond Neptune had begun to move inward. General Harrison's expression was grim as he addressed the council. "We've intercepted communications between their vessels. They're not just coming for the Vashni. They're evaluating Earth for, quote, resource potential." Dr. Chen presented her findings from the Riverview incident. The Vashni don't just absorb toxins, they metabolize them completely. Soil samples from the Montana compound show unprecedented remediation rates of pollutants. And there's more. Plants growing near Vashni settlements exhibit accelerated growth and resistance to environmental stress. Secretary General Okafor leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we use them as some kind of environmental cleanup crew? That would make us no better than the Concord." "No," Martinez interjected. "I'm suggesting we need to understand why a species with such extraordinary abilities is running scared across the galaxy. There's something they haven't told us." That evening, Martinez visited the recovering Vashni. The translator, now much improved, conveyed her simple question: "What are you really running from?" Kirol's skin darkened as the translator produced a response that would change everything. "We were not rejected. We escaped." Captain Martinez sat across from Kirol in the medical recovery unit, the Vashni's translucent skin still showing dark patches from the toxin absorption. The room had been cleared of other personnel at Kirol's request. Only Dr. Chen remained, monitoring the aliens' vital signs. "Tell me everything," Martinez said quietly. "No more half-truths." Kirol's bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly as the translator processed the response. "We did not wish to bring our burden to your world, but desperation leaves few choices." The alien activated a small device on its wrist. A holographic display flickered to life between them, showing hundreds of Vashni connected to massive machinery. Their bodies were distorted, skin darkened almost to black. Processing stations, Cure-All explained. The dominant galactic powers, the Zeth Imperium, the Morvani Collective, and the Krell Dominion, discovered our purification abilities centuries ago. The hologram shifted to show barren landscapes gradually transforming into habitable terrain as Vashni worked in chains. We die by the thousands so they can strip planets bare without consequence. Cure-All continued. Our natural lifespan is 200 of your years. In the processing stations, few survive 20. Martinez's jaw tightened. Your slaves. Resources, Cure-All corrected bitterly. The distinction matters in Concord law. Sentient beings have rights. Resources have none. Dr. Chen leaned forward. How did you escape? A sympathetic Morvani scientist helped several thousand of us flee from a processing station in the Antares sector. We scattered across the galaxy, seeking worlds where the Concord's influence was minimal. Cure-All's skin dimmed. Most were recaptured. We are the last free group. And Earth? Martines asked. Your world was not in Concord databases. Your technology signatures are. Unusual. Different development path. We hoped we might find sanctuary here until we learned your planet has severe environmental damage. Then we realized, perhaps we could offer fair exchange. Our abilities for your protection. Martinez studied the alien carefully. The incident at Riverview wasn't spontaneous, was it? You were demonstrating your value. Cure-All's skin flushed briefly with patterns too rapid for the translation matrix to process. Yes, we apologize for the deception. Meanwhile, at the Montana compound, Dr. Chen's research team made a breakthrough. The soil samples taken from areas where the Vashni had been living showed not just reduced toxin levels, but the presence of entirely new microorganisms. They're symbiotic, her assistant explained, excitement evident in his voice. The Vashni don't just absorb toxins, they convert them into beneficial microbes that continue environmental remediation long after they've moved on. Chen activated the secure line to Martinez. Captain, you need to see this. The plants growing near Vashni settlements aren't just surviving. They're thriving in previously contaminated soil. These aliens aren't just cleaning our environment. They're transforming it at a cellular level. As Martinez digested this information, General Harrison contacted her with urgent news. The first Concord vessel has entered Mars orbit. They're demanding immediate communication with Earth's leadership. Cure-All's skin paled upon hearing this. The Zeth. They always come first. The hunters. How much time do we have? Martinez asked. Hours, not days, Cure-All replied. They will demand our surrender. If refused, they will demonstrate their power by destroying something valuable to you. Martinez's mind raced. Earth's military stood no chance against technology capable of interstellar travel. But the information about the Vashni's true abilities might provide leverage. Dr. Chen, she said into her communicator, can you synthesize these microbes? Create something similar to what the Vashni produce. Possibly, with their help. Why? Because I think I've just figured out how Earth survives its first interstellar negotiation. The massive Zeth warship hung between Earth and the Moon, its obsidian surface absorbing sunlight rather than reflecting it. Smaller escort vessels positioned themselves in a precise geometric formation that military analysts suggested maximized weapons coverage over major population centers. In the United Nations Emergency Chamber, screens displayed the Zeth ambassador. Unlike the mechanical suit of the previous envoy, Ambassador Truvak appeared in physical form, a tall, silvery-skinned being with multifaceted eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Your harboring of Vashni biological resources constitutes theft under Concord law, the ambassador stated, voice melodic yet cold. All specimens will be surrendered within 6 Earth hours. General Harrison leaned toward the Secretary General. They destroyed our Pacific satellite network with what they called a calibration pulse. We have no effective countermeasures. The Secretary General addressed the alien diplomat carefully. The Vashni sought asylum under our laws. They claim to have been enslaved against their will. Ambassador Trivac's faceted eyes flickered with light patterns. Biological resources cannot be enslaved, by definition. The Vashni were genetically modified by Concord scientists 8 millennia ago, specifically for environmental processing. They are living tools, not citizens. Captain Martinez, participating via secure link from the Montana compound, felt her blood run cold. Dr. Chen beside her gasped audibly. Genetically modified. Chen whispered. That explains the perfection of their filtration systems. They were engineered for it. The ambassador continued. We offer Earth a reasonable accommodation. Surrender the Vashni and receive provisional membership in the Galactic Concord with access to limited technological exchange. Refuse and face planetary quarantine measures. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. Martinez knew quarantine measures was likely a euphemism for military action. How much time do you need? She asked Chen quietly. For complete synthesis, weeks. But for a convincing proof of concept, maybe 12 hours with the Vashni's help. We have 6. Martinez instructed her team to begin immediate evacuation of the Vashni to a secondary facility. As human personnel raced to prepare transport vehicles, Hurel approached Martinez. We cannot allow your species to suffer for sheltering us. The Vashni leader said, we will surrender ourselves. Martinez watched Vashni children being loaded onto transports, their skin patterns reflecting fear they couldn't verbally express. One small Vashni clutched a crude drawing of earth flowers, created during their brief time of freedom. That's not happening, Martinez replied firmly. Dr. Chen, I need everything you've got on the bacterial synthesis, even preliminary results. In Washington, the Security Council debated their limited options. The military leaders unanimously confirmed Earth had no defense against the Concord technology. Diplomatic overtures seemed equally futile against a civilization that viewed certain sentient beings as property. Ambassador Trivac appeared again on the screens, faceted eyes gleaming. As demonstration of our sincerity, we have disabled your primitive defensive satellites. The next demonstration will target uninhabited terrain in your Sahara region. After that, we will select populated areas. As if to punctuate the threat, a blinding beam glanced down from the Zeth flagship, visible even in daylight. Satellite imagery confirmed a 20-mile section of the Sahara had been instantly vitrified. In the Montana facility, Dr. Chen burst into Martinez's office, face flushed with excitement. We did it. A preliminary synthesis. The Vashni helped us isolate and replicate the core microbes. It's crude, but it works. Martinez studied the data, her mind racing through options that all seemed equally desperate. Have the Vashni been completely evacuated? Nearly. Why? Martinez activated the secure line to General Harrison. Sir, I have a proposal. It's either brilliant or suicidal, but it's the only card we've got. Harrison's face on the screen looked grim. At this point, Captain, I'm open to either. You want to do what? General Harrison's voice carried through the secure channel, disbelief evident despite the encryption distortion. Captain Martinez stood firm, surrounded by her hastily assembled team. We broadcast to everyone, sir. Not just the Zeth, but across all frequencies using the communication protocols we've learned from the Vashni. The general's face hardened. Revealing our planet's condition to potential hostiles is, with respect, Martinez interrupted, they already know our vulnerabilities. What they don't know is our strength. With reluctant authorization, Martinez's team worked frantically to prepare the broadcast. Dr. Chen compiled environmental data, while the Vashni provided technical assistance to modify Earth's communication arrays to reach beyond the solar system. We're ready, Communications Officer Lin announced as the deadline approached. Broadcasting in 5 minutes on all frequencies. Martinez faced the camera, acutely aware that she now spoke not just for the Montana facility, not just for Earth, but potentially for humanity's standing in the galaxy. To the Galactic Concord and all civilizations receiving this transmission, she began. I am Captain Elena Martinez of Earth. We address you regarding the Vashni who sought sanctuary on our world. The broadcast displayed before and after images of Earth's most polluted regions, the industrial wastelands outside Beijing, the plastic-choked Pacific Gyre, the radioactive zones near former nuclear test sites. Then it showed the same locations after just 3 months of Vashni partnership, visible transformation that would normally take decades. The Vashni are not mere resources, Martinez continued. They are partners who have shared their abilities willingly, teaching us rather than being exploited. Dr. Chen stepped forward. What follows is data on the microbial transformation process the Vashni create. These organisms continue environmental remediation indefinitely, adapting to specific pollutants and converting them into beneficial compounds. The screen displayed the preliminary synthesis results, crude but functional versions of the Vashni-inspired bacteria. Earth will share this technology freely, Martinez announced, but only under the following conditions. First, the Vashni must be recognized as a sovereign species with full rights under Concord law. Second, all Vashni currently enslaved must be released immediately. Third, Earth maintains independent status with full diplomatic recognition. She paused, letting the enormity of the offer sink in. Consider what this means for worlds deemed uninhabitable by even your advanced civilizations. Planets devastated by mining or warfare could be reclaimed within years rather than centuries. The broadcast concluded with imagery of Vashni children, working alongside human children to plant a garden in formerly contaminated soil, a simple yet powerful demonstration of cooperation versus exploitation. In orbit, the Zeth flagship's weapon systems powered up, targeting arrays focusing on major Earth cities. Ambassador Travak's response was immediate and dismissive. Primitive species often mistake technology they cannot understand for magic. The alien diplomat stated, "Your synthesis is incomplete and crude. The original resource is more efficient. Surrender the Vashni as instructed." Martinez had anticipated this reaction. The synthesis may be crude today, but Earth's scientific advancement rate is exponential. We've shared the preliminary data with every nation on our planet. Even if you destroy us, the knowledge now exists in thousands of locations. She allowed herself a small smile. And we've just broadcast it to every corner of the galaxy. The Zeth ambassador's faceted eyes flickered rapidly, a sign Martinez had come to recognize as agitation. Your transmission will be blocked. Too late, Lin whispered, checking his instruments. Signal confirmed beyond the heliopause. Multiple received acknowledgments detected. For the first time since the crisis began, Martinez felt a glimmer of hope. Earth couldn't match the Concord's weapons, but in information warfare, the playing field had just been leveled. Tension filled the command center as Earth waited for the Zeth response. Satellite imagery showed additional weapon systems deploying on the alien flagship, their energy signatures building toward firing thresholds. Evacuation status? Martinez asked, her voice steady despite the weight of what might come next. Major cities at 30%. Harrison reported grimly. Not nearly enough time. Martinez looked at the countdown timer. The Zeth ultimatum would expire in 17 minutes. Earth had rolled the dice on a desperate gamble, and now they would learn if it paid off. Captain, we're detecting spatial distortions near Jupiter's orbit, Lin announced suddenly, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. Energy signatures unlike the Zeth vessels. Before anyone could respond, the main screen lit up with new contacts. 7 ships of various designs appeared from what seemed to be localized fold points in spacetime, their sudden arrival causing the Zeth formation to break pattern in apparent surprise. They're positioning themselves between Earth and the Zeth warships, Lin reported, disbelief evident in his voice. Defensive formation. We're receiving a transmission. Communications Officer Park added. Multiple sources, unified channel. The screen divided to show various alien beings, none resembling the Zeth. Their appearances ranged from the nearly human to the utterly foreign. crystalline entities that refracted light, gaseous forms contained in environmental suits, beings with exoskeletons and others with iridescent scales. People of Earth began a svelte, furred being with 6 eyes arranged in a circle around its head. I am Captain Thrax of the Novari, representing the Peripheral Species Coalition. We received your broadcast and have come to offer assistance. Martinez exchanged stunned glances with her team before addressing the alien. Captain Thrax, we welcome your assistance, but we don't understand. Who are the Peripheral Species Coalition? A different alien. This one appearing as a collection of geometric shapes in constant, flowing motion, responded. We are those deemed insignificant by the Concord powers. Those with abilities or resources considered too minimal to warrant full status. Like you. Like the Vashni. We watched how you treated those with nothing to offer, continued Nithrax. It made us curious what kind of allies humans might be. Each representative introduced their civilization. The mathematically gifted Kelthori, who navigated the space-time folds that had brought them so quickly, the crystalline Drev, who communicated through light frequencies, the gravity-manipulating Joxer, and others who had long existed at the margins of galactic politics. The Concord powers exploit rather than cooperate, explained a Kelthori representative. They have taken from us as they have taken from the Vashni. Your broadcast was the first time anyone has challenged their narrative publicly. Martinez felt hope rising but remained cautious. While we appreciate your support, the Zeth weapon systems are still targeted on Earth. Their technology far exceeds our own. Perhaps not for long, Nithrax replied with what appeared to be a smile. Observe. On the tactical display, 3 Zeth vessels suddenly broke formation, repositioning away from their flagship. We're receiving a transmission from those ships, Park reported, confusion evident in her voice. They're identifying as the Zeth Reform Movement. The screen showed a Zeth officer, visibly different from Ambassador Travak, with softer features and smaller faceted eyes. I am Commander Zelnar. Your broadcast reached our outer colonies where many have questioned the ethics of resource classification for sentient beings. We stand with the Coalition against this injustice. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Zeth flagship powered down its weapons systems and withdrew to a higher orbit. Ambassador Travak's final transmission was brief. The Concord Council will address this matter directly. This incident is not concluded. As the immediate threat subsided, Martinez turned to Kirol, who had watched the proceedings in stunned silence. What just happened? She asked the Vashni leader. Kirol's skin pulsed with patterns that the translator interpreted as amazement, something unprecedented. You have sparked dissent within a unified power and cooperation among the divided. In all our history, neither has occurred before. 2 years after the standoff in Earth's orbit, Geneva's newly constructed interspecies diplomatic center bustled with activity. The crystalline dome, designed collaboratively by human, Kelthori, and Drev architects, sparkled in the spring sunshine, its transparent facets filtering light into perfect spectrum bands that accommodated the visual ranges of 32 different species. Captain Martins, now Ambassador Martinez, straightened her formal uniform as she prepared to address the inaugural summit of what Earth media had dubbed the Overlooked Alliance. The gathering included representatives from civilizations previously dismissed by the galactic powers, each bringing unique perspectives and abilities. Nervous? Dr. Chen asked, joining her on the observation deck. 2 years of working with alien biotechnology had changed the scientist. Confidence had replaced her former hesitation. Terrified, Martins admitted with a smile. 2 years ago, I was commanding a defense platform. Now I'm helping shape galactic policy. Below them, humans mingled with beings of wildly different physiologies. Vashni delegates, now officially recognized as citizens of Earth, spoke animatedly with crystalline Drev, their skin patterns flashing in harmony with the Drev's light communications. No very atmospheric specialists hovered near Kelthori mathematicians, discussing equations that might allow for more efficient spacefold transportation. They're bringing the charter document. Chen nodded toward the main doors, where Kira led a procession of mixed species representatives. Let's make it official, Martins replied, moving toward the central podium. The chamber quieted as Martinez addressed the gathering, her words translated into 27 languages simultaneously. 2 years ago, Earth stood alone against what seemed an invincible galactic order. Today, we stand together with partners who understand that true strength comes not from domination, but cooperation. She gestured to the holographic display showing dozens of vessels in Earth orbit, a combined fleet of reclamation ships constructed in joint shipyards. The Garden World Initiative launches tomorrow, she continued. These vessels, crewed by multiple species, will begin reclaiming worlds devastated by Concord mining operations and military conflicts. What the powerful discarded as waste, we will transform into homes. The central display shifted to show before and after images of Earth's most damaged regions. What had once been toxic wastelands now flourish with vegetation, the result of Vashni environmental engineering and human agricultural practices. Earth itself stands as proof of what's possible, Martins said. Our planet's healing has accelerated beyond our most optimistic projections. The techniques we've developed together can transform worlds in decades rather than millennia. The Zeth delegation, officially observers rather than members, watched from their designated area. The political upheaval within their empire following Earth's broadcast had resulted in the reform movement gaining significant influence, though not yet control. As the ceremony concluded and the Alliance Charter was formally adopted, Kirill approached the podium. The translator was no longer needed. The Vashni leader had mastered English. When we fled to your world, we had lost hope. Kirill began, voice clear and steady. Your species was unknown, primitive by Concord standards. Yet you possessed something the advanced civilizations had forgotten. The understanding that power is defined not by what you take, but what you give. Kirill gestured toward the viewport where Earth was visible, its colors more vibrant than in decades past. They called us powerless because we could only heal, not destroy. Today, we redefine power. From orbit, Earth now glowed a vibrant blue-green, the first of what would soon be many garden worlds, seeded by the species once deemed worthless. The planet itself had become the symbol of a new understanding spreading gradually, but inexorably throughout the galaxy. True strength lay not in domination, but in cooperation, not in uniformity, but in diversity, not in taking life, but in nurturing it. Martinez smiled as she watched the proceedings. Humanity had joined the galactic community not as conquerors or the conquered, but as catalysts for change. Their greatest power not technology or weapons, but the simple willingness to see value where others saw none.